Hi, welcome to our pinch pot bird video. The first thing we're going to do is look at the chunk of clay that I've handed you and tear off a little bit to save for adding our details to our pinch pot bird. Then I'm left with a hunk of clay. I want to kind of start pushing it a little bit into a sphere shape, like a ball, as best as I can. I don't want to put new air bubbles in there. If you get air bubbles in your clay, even the ones you can't see, they heat up in the kiln, they're trapped in there, and all they do is push the clay outward as it dries, cracking and breaking your entire project. So be careful not to add too many wrinkles when you're making your ball. You want it mostly roughly ball shape. Find kind of the dirtiest edge or an area where it looks like there'd already be a hole and stick your thumb down in there so that it hangs on your thumb. And you're going to start pinching. As I'm pinching, my thumb stays flat and it sort of pushes like this to smooth out the inside. It's also pushing the clay outward so that it gets bigger around and it gets a little taller. Once it gets to a certain point that I can put both of my thumbs in, I put both in and I keep pinching gently. And I'm putting pressure throughout my entire fingers when I'm doing this. I'm not just pinching here or just at the bottom. I'm being sure to stay nice and smooth as I go all the way around. And you can see it's starting to look like a pinch pot bowl, which is what we're going for. We're going to flip them upside down when we do our birds. So I have this about the same thickness all the way through that I can feel. If I want to smooth it out a little bit, I get my hands just a little damp and I rub a little bit of water. I don't want a whole bunch. If it's dripping, that's too much and it'll cause more cracking. And then I can gently smooth out any of the cracks that I don't want on there. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're just going to go back and put a texture on it anyway today when we do these. The next thing I want to do is decide where I'm going to put some of my feathers, my wings, my eyeballs, my beak, that kind of thing. So now I have a nice little half dome, or a little dome, I guess it is not a half dome, it is a dome, half of a sphere. I'm going to set that off to the side, and then I'm going to get my working clay here, and I'm going to do the eyes first. So I'm going to pinch off a little, roll it into a sphere. We said S-P-H-E-R-E, a sphere. Has that SF sound. Doesn't always pick up on the microphone. Then I'm going to cut my sphere in half. So now I have two eyeballs. Push that one back into a round shape, like that. Now I can't just stick these on because as the clay dries, it pulls apart from each other and they would just fall off like this. What you have to do with clay is you have to do what's called scoring and slipping. So with our undone paper clips, we're going to score, which means we put little scratch marks in to the pieces we're going to stick on. And you can't just do it on the one side, you also have to do it on the sides on here, where you're planning to put your eyeballs. So that would be here and here for me. Then you want to put a little bit of slip on it, or slippery water. Slip is typically clay that has a lot of water mixed into it, but for this project being so small, we just have to add a little bit of water here. It makes its own slip right on our bird. You don't have to mix it in a separate bowl. And then you firmly but gently push these on. Remember, you put your hand on the underside when you push down so it doesn't collapse your pinch pot dome. And then now he has his two eyes on. Next thing I'm going to work on is the beak. And for my beak, I have a longer beak planned. So I'm going to kind of roll it out in a carrot type shape. You guys are all familiar with that shape, or a cylindrical cone type shape. Okay. And now I don't just want to clunk it on because it looks like a carrot. I want my bird's mouth to be open. So very carefully, I'm actually going to use the paper clip because it's a little skinnier. I'm going to use my paper clip to cut my bird's beak in half. Not all the way, just part of it. Towards the end. There we go. And I'm going to check the other side, make sure it's nice and neat. It is. Now you can open his beak a little bit. Again, I can't just stick it on. I have to score and slip where it's going. A little bit of water. Put my hand inside underneath. Keep the beak the right direction. We don't want it this way. That'd be sideways. That way. And then I gently push. And I can even smooth it out a little around the edge if I want to. Get my fingers in there. And then straighten his beak out a little bit. Don't want to mess with it too much because it'll get brittle and dry pretty fast. I don't want to break it off. There's that part. Now I'm going to do some wings on him, I think. So for my wings, that's the clay I have left. I'm going to do that same carrot type shape, but shorter. And I like that because then when I push down with my palm, you'll notice it flattens kind of into a nice little wing shape. Clay is getting a little dry, it's getting some cracks in it, so I'm going to add some water, smooth it out, and I'm going to decorate my wings. I'm going to use, let's see, like this tool I think on the end has a neat pattern. So the top of my wings, I'm going to do this pattern, and then at the bottom I'm going to give them some of those long flight feathers. We need those ones to glide and get some lift. Smooth it out a little bit more. There we go. So there's one. Now I have to do another one. That side's a little bumpy, so what I could do is flip it over because it has to be the opposite side for the wing anyway on the other side of the body. They don't both face the same way, right? They're on two different sides. Do the same pattern in the top, the same line pattern in the bottom. There we go, like that. And then of course I have to score and slip again. Now before I put my wings on though, I want to do a neat pattern on my bird. This is one of the many things that you can look at today that will add kind of an interesting pattern to your bird or a texture to your bird. If you roll it, you kind of get like little spiky feathers. So that's going to be my undercoat that I'm doing today. The first step of how I'm going to do a pattern. Here, being careful to keep his eyes smooth. I don't want his eyes to get strange. There we go. Oh, his beak got a little crooked. So now I have some basic patterns on him. Then I'm going to go back in because I like the way those other feathers turned out earlier on his wings. And on top, I'm going to do kind of a little bumpy feather pattern too. So think sort of like Angry Birds, right? When they each have their own different little feather patterns to differentiate them, plus their own colors. So there he kind of has a neat texture on him. And then maybe on the back, I want him to have larger feathers. So I pick a different tool to give the impressions. There goes our bell for the day in my class. I'm recording this video in class this morning so you can hear the morning bell. We had some students that were counting down. They were so excited to be here today. Love it when everybody's excited to come to art class and start school. Hope you're at a school where you enjoy going to class every day and can't wait for it to be art time. There we go. So now he has all sorts of feather texture patterns, and I can add my little bit of slip here, and then grab the wing, and put my wing. Oh, I didn't score this side of my wing. I could tell as soon as I put it down too, it was too slippery. It wasn't gripping on and locking in like it was supposed to. There we go. I already scratched that earlier. And then if some of my pattern kind of came out of here, I can just go back in after I get it on and push that pattern back in. There we go. It's always okay if you have to go back and redefine some of those lines. There's that wing. And then that one already has the scoring. So now I just have to score on the back of here. A little bit of water, just so it looks shiny and slippery. I like to say that's where the term slip came from. It makes it slippery clay. It's not necessarily true, but if it helps you to remember, that's what's important. Now, I think for his eyeballs, though, they're looking a little plain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do googly eyes on him, which means I need to make impressions where those googly eyes are going to fit in, because they won't just stick on with glue. I'll actually have to have a little compressed area, and this will probably work better for you with a pencil. If you use just a pencil eraser, I'm going to work on scooping mine out very carefully with a plastic knife that I happen to have here. There's one eye of the bird. And then I'll work on one. There we go. And then my googly eyes will sit down in there after we fire it. You can't do them before, otherwise you'll just have melted plastic. And I have my crazy little bird that I can now put in the kiln and add feathers to when he comes back out. I'm going to put my initials inside so I know that it is my bird when it comes out the other side. There we go.